What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be doing a preview of Port Adelaide versus West Coast. Now, it's such a big game that I needed an extra two hands, and I thought none other than one of the biggest West Coast supporters I know in the Southern Hemisphere itself. It's Jesse from True Footy. Jesse, welcome aboard, mate. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, mate. It's good to be back on the channel. Wish we were meeting under circumstances where your team wasn't such heavy favourites, but either way, I'm looking forward to it.
I looked at the odds before. It's actually $1.90 our way. It's $1.94.
Oh, okay, that's pretty tight though. Yeah, maybe it's just me projecting my lack of confidence.
I wouldn't be lacking anything, mate. I'm a bit nervous about this week, but anything happens. We're in Perth this week, Saturday night, Easter Saturday. It's going to be a belter. What are your early thoughts at the moment?
I guess because we just went down in dramatic fashion against the Dogs, the confidence has taken a hit. I suppose that could go two ways. We could respond next week, or we could sort of, let our heads drop a little bit. But I think, as we said on the True Footy show the other day, I think looking at the last two times Port played us, both ended in beltings your way. So, yeah, it's hard to feel too confident, but I'm definitely not ruling us out. I think we're always a chance at home, and the weather should be good, which I think helps us quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think Optus Stadium, we haven't played there since actually that belting in 2019, so it will be a bit of an advantage for you going forward this week. How much is that going to play an effect, do you think, for both sides?
The lack of Optus Stadium, do you mean?
Yeah. Has it taken, I guess you're still training there and stuff like that, but has it been one of those things where you're just slowly adapting back to playing at home again?
I think so. I mean, the interesting thing about the Eagles and Optus Stadium was our first year there, when we hadn't really built a home ground advantage, we won the flag. So I think you can build up a home ground advantage pretty quickly, as we saw. I think we went on like a 10-game run through the middle of 2018. I think from our perspective, I'm feeling pretty confident. And from a Port Adelaide perspective, like I said, I don't know what your record is against Fremantle, but you've showed you can play well on the wider ground. So I think the last time you beat us, it was pissing down with rain. So I think that does suit you guys, but hopefully in drier conditions we can play on a little bit more on our terms.
Quite ironically, it was Easter last time we played as well in Perth, so a bit of a Jesus special might come our way. But what exactly worries you about Port? There's obviously so many different strengths that we've come to find, especially recently. What's one particular thing you're worried about?
Look, Port are pretty strong across the ground. I think maybe their one list weakness maybe going into last off-season was like a tall defender, and you've added someone like Alira who's fitted into the team really nicely. But I think from an Eagles perspective, probably the contested ball game of your midfield, because that's like a glaring weakness of ours. As we saw against the Bulldogs, the Eagles, while the play was open and moving across the ground, we're moving it pretty well. But other than the third quarter, we're getting smacked in the middle. So I think Port Adelaide do have that capacity to, beat us up in the midfield, generate a lot of supply. And then, unlike the Bulldogs, your forward line's really strong as well. So if our defence is not on the game, you could score a lot of goals pretty quickly. So, yeah, plenty of things to be worried about, unfortunately.
There's a few that we have on the list, but I think we're actually pretty similar in terms of how we structure up. We've got our tall defenders now. Both forward lines are going to be elite. Oscar Allen, who did hurt his shoulder last week, but I think he's expected to play, and combine that with Jack Darling and the man himself, Josh Kennedy, who just seems to kick goals no matter what form he's in. So, and then you've got on the other end, Charlie Dixon, Pete Laddams can hit the scoreboard. I think we're going to go with Georgiades instead of Marshall this week. Tell you what, the matchups are going to be unreal.
Yeah, for sure. That Georgiades kid, he was a bit of a bolter in his draft year, but like since everyone's seen to see a little bit of him, they're like, holy crap, you can't. He's a bit like Oscar Allen in the sense that you can't keep this guy out of the team. He's too talented. So someone like a Marshall is probably a bit unlucky. But yeah, in terms of the forwards as well, you've got quite a few options there now. At ground level, you've got Orazio as well. But even though McGovern's world-class player, there's a physical advantage that Charlie Dixon has over pretty much any other key defender. So going to cause some headaches. But if our midfield puts on pressure, hopefully we make it easy for our backs to intercept.
Yeah, and Charlie did kick 6 last time.
Yeah.
When we played up in the Gold Coast. So matchups, I hope he does that same thing. But that'll be tough to see. I've heard some good news though on your front. Luke Shuey might be back this week.
Yes, yeah. My boy Luke Shuey, he's my favourite player, but also I think the Eagles midfield has just not really been cutting it lately. So from that perspective, it's a really big in, and I think we saw how important Nat Nui is to the Eagles on the weekend. In the third quarter, he basically tore the Dogs a new one, and that was where we came back. So the Nat Nui, Shuey, and also to a lesser extent Kelly combination is potentially like really juicy. It's always been really strong. So if those two can start working together, and Nat Nui can sort of tap it over the Port midfielders, so Shuey can run into an open inside 50, which happens quite a lot. That's where the Eagles will gain the ascendancy if they do.
Yeah, definitely. And you combine Luke Shuey, you've got Tim Kelly, as you said, and also Dom Sheed's been averaging 30 disposals in the first two games, which is insane for the goal kicker for the 2018 grand final. He's been a bit of a surprise packet, actually.
Yeah, you're right. He was an early pick for us. Started off poorly. Second year was great, and then he faded away until the end of 2018. But he's just a kind of a quiet achiever, really classy. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And I think with both Shuey and Yo out of the team right now, he's been able to stand up. And I think he was a bit scrappy in the first half last week, but generally speaking, he's undroppable. He's a very good player for us.
Yeah, I can't wait. To be honest, this is going to be a thrilling matchup. We've got the heavyweights of Boak against Shuey. It'll be most likely be. Then you throw in Ollie Wines. Willem Drew's been exceptional for us in the midfield. And then who else? Dan Houston across half back. Probably arguably the best kick in the game at the moment. Especially at that wider ground of Optus, I think he might suit our forward line a bit. But if there's one player in particular from Port Adelaide that's worrying you, who would it be?
Oh, probably Charlie Dixon.
Yeah.
For the reasons I alluded to before. Zachy Butters, I'm a big fan of as well. You do have a lot of weapons. Is Connor Rosie back this week?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's another worry for us. But other than that, I think Robbie Gray usually plays well against us as well. So you got a lot of options there who could equally tear us apart. And I think the Eagles, not so much lately, but there was a time during the mid-2010s where small forwards would routinely tear us up. So Orazio could probably go up to kick four as well. So I'm sounding really negative, but the truth is Port do have a lot of ways they can beat you. So, it's going to be a bit of a headache.
I was actually, and to answer the question myself with West Coast, I was hoping Luke Shuey would miss this one. But he worries me every time we play. He just seems to get that, even if he gets 25 touches, he'll have 20 of those will be damaging. He'll hit the scoreboard, and he's a leader in the midfield. So if Nat Nui's giving him that supply, then Shuey's going to give supply to Kennedy and Darling and Oscar Allen. Liam Ryan is another one, the candy shop that he has at the moment. He's been unreal. So I tell you what, if we get Connor Rosie back though, I think probably 2 or 3 goals coming our way. But I don't want to get too excited. If there's a player that Port Adelaide fans right now are watching should be worried about with West Coast, who do you think?
I think Nat Nui, to be honest. I think he's kind of emerged as our best player over the last 12 months. Prior to that, it was maybe Elliot Yeo, but he's kind of gone down with injury. So, but I think if you look at the third quarter in isolation against the Dogs, he really stood up and was almost won the match for us. He just needs to play a bit more time on ground. But honestly, think if Nat Nui goes out or if he misses this game, I wouldn't really be giving the Eagles much of a chance. So, that's how I think the key is for West Coast.
I hate Nat Nui. Not as in a person, but I just hate him as a player because he's that good.
Yeah.
If you look at him as a ruckman, it's everyone that wants to be a ruckman aspires to be Nick Nat with his tap work and just his tackling. He's a ferocious tackler. I will never forget the game we played West Coast in 2018. It was our first game at Optus, and he tackled Carl Amon basically into the turf. Like he put him so far in, he planted him. So, yeah, he worries me big time. I think he's going to... Lycett's got his hands full.
For sure. Well, on the flip side, Lycett's used to train with him, so he might know a few
tricks. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So a bit of experience there. The question I want to ask you, and we actually touched on this when I guest starred on the famous True Footy show the other day. This is a test for both teams, I think. Port Adelaide's credibility, obviously, with beating North and Essendon. You'd want to beat a top team, which West Coast are. And then for West Coast, not so much credibility, more so just going 1 and 2 does put a little bit of pressure on you. I want to ask, who do you think out of the two teams this is more of a test for?
Ooh, who's it more of a test for? Oh, that's a tough one. I I think it's a pretty big test for both teams. I reckon there's probably a bit more riding on it for West Coast in the sense that Port dropped this game and you look at it on paper like, look, Perth's a really tough away trip, and then they're so strong at home. It's not, if they chalk it up as a loss, it's not really a big deal. But if they win, it's a massive bonus. It probably puts them, top of the premiership favouritism if they're not there already. For West Coast, it's a big test in that it would be the toughest opponent this year for sure, and it would just be a huge confidence boost to knock a team off that's playing well at the moment. We came so close last week. For the Eagles, it's a really tough opening 6 weeks. The 6-week block, it's really important. I think we want to aim for 3-3 or 4-2. So, but equally, it's forgivable if they do lose. So I don't know. I don't know who it's a bigger test for. I think if you're going to say Port are the favourites, then it's arguably a bigger test for West Coast. But I think it'll be more significant for Port to win this, maybe, in terms of where it'll assert them in the league.
I think so. I agree because we all see West Coast as they've got that credentials of a Richmond or when Collingwood are in form, and as well as who else has been form lately, even a Geelong type. So West Coast is always going to be that good team, but Port, we've always been questioned. Even finishing top of the table, we were still questioned about our credentials. So I think if we can beat West Coast away in Perth, then we come back and play Richmond on Friday night at home. These next 2 weeks are massive for us. So I think if we can get one of those two, it'd be great. But get two, then I think people outside of our club will start talking, which would be good because I can stand up a bit taller.
Yeah, very true. You've been on top of the ladder for a year and a bit now. And see how long you can keep that run going. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I've screenshot it every week too. Just sending it through to mates like, hey, that just hasn't changed. Not in pace.
Oh, you did.
Who's your tip and why?
Look, I think I'm going to go with Port here, just tipping with my head, not my heart. I think they're just too strong around the ground, and I think while the Eagles, I definitely have belief in the Eagles. I've been a bit negative on them in this preview, but I totally believe they can win. But football's just mental, right? Well, it's a huge portion of it is mental. So the Eagles might be more up for this game. That's what I'm hoping. They're thinking, we dropped 4 points. We probably could have won last week. Going 1-2, there's a lot riding on this home crowd. And when the Eagles hit top gear, very few teams can stop them. So that's what I'm hoping happens. But for Port Adelaide, in terms of what they've shown so far, albeit against weaker opposition, I just think too strong around the ground, too strong in the midfield, which is a really big weakness for us. If they can nullify Nat Nui to some extent, I think Port by 19. What about yourself?
Oh, look, it worries me that I don't like West Coast when we play over there. As simple as that. As soon as the crowd get involved, it's always free kick West Coast as well. It just always happens. If something doesn't go our way, it all doesn't go our way. So I hope it'll come down. I said on the True Footy show, it'll be all about the midfield, but I think it'll be all about the start as well. Who can get off to a quick start, kick the first couple of goals, and really put that pressure on. We did that last time, and we ended up winning by quite a decent margin. So if we can do that again, it'll come down to that. But I'm tipping head and heart for Adelaide, but it'll be very close. I think I changed it from 21 the other day. I've gone to about 12 goals. It's come down 9.
Do you think, this is a weird question maybe, but do you think both teams are good enough to win this by 50 points?
Yeah.
I can see that happening, hey. Like I said, I'm tipping for it, but yeah, there's that potential.
If we have that one quarter, against North, we had that quarter, the second quarter where we just bursted away. Essendon on the weekend, first quarter basically had home and hose by quarter time and kept it at arm's length. I think, and West Coast are the same. They can have that 8, 9, 10 goal quarter in the space of 20 minutes. So, yeah, if we lose by 50 points, then you won't hear from me. I'm telling you that.
Oh, look, it probably won't happen. But, yeah, I think just with the scoring power of the Eagles, there's always that chance at home. That's all I meant. But, I can't really see it happening.
And as well, I think it'll be high scoring too. With all the new rule changes and stuff like that, suiting the bigger key forwards and bigger ground as well. I think the first game against Gold Coast was over 150 points total for you guys as well in terms of combined score.
I think it was 141. Quick math.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 140 is actually pretty decent for the AFL today. So, I think this game has potential to be 170, 180 and close. So,
Yeah, that'd be
look
good.
out for Charlie Dixon and Josh Kennedy.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Jesse, that wraps up this preview. I don't think. Is there anything more you'd like to add?
I think we covered it.
I think we have. I think this
Yeah.
is the best preview you'll see all week if you're a Port or a West Coast fan. So make sure you do subscribe to True Footy if you haven't already. I'd be pretty disappointed if you haven't. It's one of the best AFL channels going out at the moment. And also the True Footy show that has been launched recently is unreal. So make sure you check that out on Drewsy's channel because this man and the other mop has been doing a terrific job. So check that out. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me, Jesse.
Thank you, mate. Pleasure.
All good. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content. My name is Anthony, and as always, can the pair.